Social Security is getting scrapped. All of these other initiatives are getting scrapped that we paid for. Should you call your reps? I always recommend calling reps just to annoy them, but that's not going to solve our problem. Our problem will be solved on March 14, 2025, because that is the day where we get to recognize whether or not Americans believe that this country and our liberty is worth fighting for. We need 11 million people all across the country on the streets. On the streets protesting in solidarity with those who will be protesting in DC. Now, 11 million in total, I'm not saying in addition, but in DC, there will be protesting, obviously, symbolically, 314, Section 3 of Amendment 14. So, talking about how he's not even legitimate. Why is he up there? If I'm disqualified, you cannot win. So, why is he our POTUS when he is disqualified from the Constitution? So this has been led, I believe, Jessica Denson, and also there will be veterans who will be protesting against the same thing, against his regime. And here's the thing, the government won't hesitate to harm, dozens of people, even hundreds of people, but millions of people? Now that is what we need in order to protect those who will be protesting in DC. We have to amplify what they are saying. Preferably, if you're near DC, you go to DC. But if you cannot, because I'm not going to get on a plane to go to DC from California, and also it's expensive, and I don't plan to do that in order to go to DC. So the alternative is to go to our state capitals. But in our reality, an obstacle that we've had is transportation. So in our reality, I need Americans with financial capital to start sponsoring chartered transportation to our capitals, whether that's a state capital or whether that's DC. Americans have been asking, where are our veterans? Where are our military? And they're going to DC on March 14, 2025. Americans will be going to DC on March 14, 2025. Now it's your turn. It's your turn to show up because we need millions of people on the streets, or else they're just going to step on them like roaches. You need to step up and protect this country because our traditional mechanisms of the Congress, of the executive, of the courts, of the agencies won't work. What happens to the agency workers who actually have an obedience to the Constitution? They resign and then they're replaced with loyalists. We need to stop standing at empty wells. Now, March 14, 2025 is not an empty well because it will decide how hungry the people are against this regime. Because if we have a government that is closer to Russia and actually discredits our European democratic allies, then why do you think that you will keep your liberty? If Russians don't have liberty, why would Americans under Russia have liberty? This isn't just about right versus left. This is about a foreign country taking hold and infecting our country. This is no longer an American government. This is a Russian government, and it began even before that in allowing for a disqualified candidate to actually win. It doesn't matter whether he won, it's whether he's legitimate, and he's not. In that reality, we have the capability through this provision to eliminate every single thing he's done, including his administration, including banning his allies in Congress from ever being in an elected position again. We can restore what was lost. And how we do this, you should not focus on that. You should focus on showing up on March 14, 2025. You make sure to take out PTO, make sure to take out whatever you need in order to be there or at the Capitol on that day. Now, I truly believe that March 14, 2025 will be a deciding point in our current history, whether or not we the people are hungry enough and strong enough to unite against a regime like this, which is our right, or whether we're going to allow for it through complacency, through complicity, to remove our rights and to delve us into a tyranny, because later on we're not going to be able to have this opportunity. So this is the opportunity. Now maybe you cannot go, but you need to share this, because you may be thinking, I like this, but I'm not going to share it because someone else will share it. And that's the same mentality. I'm not going to go to the protest because someone else will go to the protest. And then what happens? Not enough numbers, and then people get harmed, and you're like, you see, this is why I didn't go. It's because there wasn't sufficient people to actually make a difference, because people thought that someone else would go, and they didn't go because it's a whole network of people who thought someone else would do it. By now, we have to recognize that as much as we contact our reps, they're not doing what we want them to do, and they're not going to do it because it's more likely that a Republican will convince a Democrat than a Democrat will convince a Republican. So in this reality, you can just wait at empty wells and probably just be unalive, just waiting for it to show up with water, or you can actually do something that matters and will be impactful. That is March 14, 2025. That is the greatest march in our recent memory. That has to be a day where millions of Americans show up. And I know it's unrealistic in your head. However, if this does not happen, then we're fucked. That's it. Is this country we're fighting for? Is this flag we're fighting for? Is this principle we're fighting for? Is this identity? Is this culture? Is this nationality we're fighting for? Because if the answer is yes, then either you have to be there on March 14 or you have to share this video so that others can see it and they can make that choice. Today is the State of the Union, and we know it's going to be messy. We know Democrats are probably going to do something that's going to be disappointing because they never maximize on anything. Just like when they went to the agencies and they were like, oh my God, you're not going to let me go in? Okay, let me go home. Now, they don't fight for our Constitution. Now, we should. And the thing about the military is the military won't intervene as in defending us and in a way where you believe that they should. So getting involved before they have an order, right? The only thing they can do is say no to an order that they believe to be unlawful. But unless we're in that situation, then they're not going to do that. So if there is no protest in which they can say, I'm not going to do that, then it's not going to happen. And people just expect for the military to show up and save us. That's not going to happen unless we're in a situation. And that situation will be March 14, 2025. Now, I have ADHD, so I'm incapable of doing all of the logistics for this, so I'm vocalizing out loud. We need millions of people on the streets on March 14, 2025. That's it. And preferably, Americans with financial capital can sponsor chartered buses or whatever to the capitals so that we can fulfill on those numbers that are required for us to truly make a difference. 11 million Americans out of 340 million Americans, that's possible. And again, maybe you cannot do that. Maybe you have 10 kids. Maybe you're disabled. That's valid. I'm not going to ask you why you're not going to do it. But the bare minimum you can do is engage and share this video so that others can make that choice, so that others can show up. Because if you cannot do it, then others may be able to do it. You know, if you cannot travel, then others may be able to travel. And that's what we have to think about. Share this video so that others can make a choice. Because on March 14, 2025, I believe will be our last opportunity to show our numbers, to show our unity, to show that we are dissatisfied, to show that we don't want a Russian government, to show that we don't want a Russian-aligned country. Okay, this is up to you. This is up to me. It's not up to Congress. It's not up to the courts. It's not up to the executive. It's not up to the agencies. It is up to us to finally make a stand. It is up to us to finally remove Putin from our government. Amendment 14, Section 3, March 14, 314. This is symbolic, and I believe if any day is a day where ML will be invoked, it may be this day. And I don't think that's bad for us because it's the day where the military gets to choose what side they're on. And we have to give them the opportunity to choose. And we have to support those in DC who will be putting themselves on the line. And hopefully with the numbers that contributes as a comfort line, right? But if anything, in our own states. Because that is truly the power of the people. And we need millions of the people on March 14. If not, then we already gave up the country, and it's not what we're fighting for. That's what you decided. That's what everyone decided. So what's your choice? I guess we'll see.